Hey, this is Larry with ManCave Mayhem. Today we're chilling out in the garage. We are retired in our retirement uniform with spots all over it. And I don't even care because I'm retired, right? That's good, huh? So today we are working on the new Triumph Tiger Rally Pro. Now, I just bought this bike and it's affectionately named Tigger, right? So what we're doing today is we are putting some Pannier racks on this thing. So I'm gonna get started. I opted for the Pannier racks from Outback Motortek. These are for the Triumph Tiger 900. They're the X-frame asymmetrical Pannier racks. And they're black powder coated in a satin powder coat finish. They're really nice, actually very nice. And I like the fact that these things have loops on them and stuff for different attachments. So this is what you can expect to get in the kit. I got these I guess these are the X frames. They're super lightweight aluminum, and obviously the attachment kit for that, along with the kit to attach these Pannier racks that are very beautifully well made to the Triumph Tiger. And we'll get that going right now. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Check us out on Instagram at ManCave_Mayhem. Now, on with the show. Tools you're gonna need for this install is a 3/8 ratchet, a 3/8 extension. You're gonna need a 5mm Allen socket, a T40 Torx. You're gonna need a 13mm socket, a 12mm socket, a 10mm socket. You're also gonna need a 8mm open box end wrench, a 10mm open box end wrench, 12mm, and two 13mm wrenches. Now they'll tell you differently in the actual instructions, but there are some bolts that are different, and also they do not explain what wrenches you need for the factory bolts. So just giving you guys a heads up. What you're gonna want to do is remove the seats. If you have heated seats, be really careful with the plugs. You don't want to break them, especially on a newer bike like this. So we'll carefully remove these seats. Then we're gonna get to this tray. These heated seats, they're color coded. This is the front, black to black and gray to gray. And you wanna push this tab down and pull out on it. And it comes out fairly easy. I'm gonna make a liar of myself. But anyhow, I can't do it with the camera in my hand, but if you push down on that, it should slide right out. Heated seats out, we're gonna wanna start removing this tray. Now this tray is pretty simple to get out. To get this tray out, you're gonna wanna remove these 4 Allen bolts, and then this plastic washer right here. And that will get you exposed to the areas that you need to be exposed to, so we can get to the nuts and bolts of this whole project. Lift it out of the way, I should be able to get to these bolts down here. We're gonna wanna get to these rack bolts, I believe. So we're gonna go ahead and start working on this now. We'll get this loosened up and get things going. All right, so you can see those nuts back there. Those are actually 12mm nuts. So they don't tell you that in the instructions, but these are 12mm nuts and bolts. So we're gonna take the 12mm nuts and bolts and pull those completely off, and then we will throw the Pannier rack on next. Okay, so now we wanna get these bolts out. We're gonna get this bolt out, and we're gonna get this top rack bolt. So the 2 rack bolts are coming out, then we're gonna loosen the foot peg bolts. If you're leaving the foot pegs on, which I probably will, because I will have a rider on occasion, I'm gonna leave those foot pegs on and just keep them loose. But these 2, we're actually removing the bolts. In order to do that, you gotta get this tray out of the way. Some people take the tray all the way off. I think I can manipulate it out of the way enough to where I don't have to take it off. Actually, I got the tray out of the way. So now for the next step in the process, we are going to be loosening these 2 foot peg bolts. We're gonna loosen this bolt here, okay? These 2 foot peg bolts are gonna be the Torx bit, a T40 Torx right here. So we'll get that loosened up. And then right here, they did say a 13mm, but this is a 12mm socket. So we're gonna go ahead and go with the 12mm socket. Now you may opt to take your foot pegs off, your passenger pegs off if you're not riding with a pillion. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet. My wife, I'm sure, will come along, but on this trip she may not, so we'll see how it works out. Those two loosened. Actually, we want to remove this top one, which is a 12mm bolt, and we're going to back it with open end wrench. Now we'll move to the next step. Now with the longer rack bolt in the back and the shorter one in the front, we're going to go ahead and put these spacers on. And it looks like you're going to use the deeper spacer on the back and the shorter spacer on the front. So we're going to try and get this all in at one time here. Now we're going to slip the front half of the pannier in to the space provided. And we're going to bring this rack down. And you're going to want to loosely put these bolts in. Now the rack's going to want to flex on you a little bit, so you're just going to have to move it around and adjust it until you find the hole. Then what you're going to want to do is loosely attach those. Get those in loose. And these are going to be 13mm wrench on these, or 13mm socket. Now we got now that we got this side loosely in, we're going to want to back these with the nylock that's provided and the washer. So we're going to put those on there now on both points. Back those nuts out a little, or back those bolts out a little bit and put the nuts on, and then just have it loosely fitted. The other thing that I forgot to tell you guys is you also have to put one of these spacers in for the footrest spacer. So we're going to go ahead and throw that in on this side, which goes in right here, and I'll probably end up, there we go. That goes in. Just make sure it stays in when you tighten things up. So now we'll put these on loosely, and we're going to move over to the other side. We got everything loosely attached on this side. We're going to move over to the other side and shift this out of the way a little bit so we can get to these bolts right here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to loosen these two up and these two up and get them plenty loose and free so we can set that rack in there with the new bolts. So let's do that. Have those bolts out. We are going to repeat the process. Just remember, this rack's going to fight you a bit. You can see how it's pushing itself down. So as you're putting the bolts in, they're going to want to fight you. So just take your time, be careful, and you'll get this in. Right. So the hardest part of this really is getting this rack lined up and getting it lined up on these two bolts. One of the things that I found made it easier is getting these really loose. Now you just want to make sure this spacer doesn't fall out. So after you get the racks on loosely, you might want to just snug this up prior to the torquing down of that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Like I said, these are optionally here. You may be removing these and, you know, just leaving the spacer and or a stack of washers or whatever to eliminate these pegs. These do concern me, as if you fall, they could bend. So I don't know, depending on what I'm going to do, I may take those off for my Alaska trip. I'm not sure, but we're going to go ahead and tighten those up, and then we'll move on to the next step. Not tighten, but snug them, or just loosely tighten them. On this step, we're going to move to the back of the bike, and we're going to use these 4 bolts right here with the nuts provided and washers provided, and we're going to attach this cross member, and that runs under the fender. So we're going to get that started right now. All right, so when you install this, you're going to want to have this bend facing upwards. So as you put this in, just be careful to notice which way that bend's going. And see, I have it facing down in that position. I believe it needs to be up. So we're going to face it up. And that's the way you want it. And what I've done is I've just taken, I'm going to loosely fit these bolts in here to hold it into place. And then I'll put the nuts on that are provided, nuts and washers that are provided for it. And you'll want to keep that black washer on the outside. The silver washers go on the inside with the silver nuts. Now that you got that loosely fitted, we're going to snug everything up, and then we'll get to torquing it down. Now, just to make things easy, you're going to need 2 13mm wrenches. I prefer the ratcheting style to get these tightened up here, just because it's a tight squeeze. Now that you've got these all snugged up pretty tight, I will give you the torque specs at the end. I just wanted to get these on and show you how it looks. But now that I got these snugged up tight, you're going to need an 8mm for the outside and a 10mm for the inside for this back cross brace. We're going to get that snugged up, and then we'll go to the torque. All right, now we're going to go ahead and go over the torque specs on these. The torque specs on these right here are 23 Newton meters or 16.96 foot-pounds. So you can round that up to 17 or go a little less. They didn't really give us torque specs on these. They also provided, I think they provided some other bolts for these, but I went ahead and went with the factory ones. In the video that they show, they had the factory bolts, and I like the way they look better, and there seems to be plenty of bolt left there, so no problem there. We're going to move to the back bolts here. These bolts are torqued to 9.7 Newton meters. That's the cross rack bolt, or 7.15 foot-pounds, so you can round those up. Anyhow, and that's the completion of that part of the video. Now we're going to go to the X rack portion of the video. So
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with meaning. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my face. Work a job every day till your dreams fade away like a card never changes.
all right, I'm getting ready to install these X frames on these Pannier racks. So they're real simple to install. They give you these Allen head bolts, and the only thing you'll need for that, and I've got it right here, is, oop, that's not an Allen. I've got it right here. You'll need a crescent wrench or a ratchet and a 4mm Allen socket or an Allen key to install these. So let's get these installed. First of all, each one of these, you take the screws off, and each one of these go on the back of the plate. And these plates have a notch in them, if you can see from the angle here. They're kind of notched. So you're going to want that notch to go towards the round tube, and then this will go right there like that. So it kind of follows the notch just like that. So let's get those installed right now. While installing those, I'm going to use some trusty blue thread locker or Loctite on these Allen bolts, just because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and I can feel like, wow, I actually am tightening this down, and it's going to stay there for a minute. Get those installed, it's going to look a little something like this. I'm going to walk over to the bike or roll over to the bike, and you're going to slip those down on there like so, and these will go in the upward position like so, and you'll snug those up, and you can adjust it accordingly back and forth where you want that. And that's basically it for the X frame on the Triumph Tiger 900 rack. So it looks something like that. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Check us out on Instagram at ManCave_Mayhem. And just remember, I'm just a man in a cave causing mayhem. Thanks again for watching, folks.